There's a long list of things here, so we'll just say. What's that?
You don't have to do them.
Okay, I'll just say Greg has a heck of. I'll just say Greg has a heck of a background and a terrific story. I guess the one thing I'll just point out, you've got your 5 a.m. Mester Scrum, which I've seen several of these. You're up to 12,000 subscribers and 14 million views on YouTube, and a 2023 number 4 ranked podcast for Agile coaching. So anyway, I highly recommend the 5 a.m. Mester Scrum. I've seen a lot of these myself, and Greg does a terrific job. How you come up with all this stuff is pretty remarkable. But anyway, so without further ado.
All right, thanks. And speaking of that, thanks for the intro. Two things. I do my 5 a.m. Mester Scrum shows. I'll plug for it real quick. I do interview people, so if you think you want to be out there in the social media world, I'm more than happy to interview you. Doesn't have to be about maybe how you do recruiting. You can always interview some recruiters and what the take is for the career world. Open invitation. You don't have to get up at 5 a.m. Don't worry about it. We'll set up a time and I'll interview you, send you questions. It's easy. And for anybody, this is one of the books in the pile. I already have this book, but the Phoenix Project. If you haven't read it and you're going to be in IT, read this book. It's a novel. It's not a how-to book, but it's pretty interesting. So if you might want to just take this to your shop.
What is that about again? I just heard.
So it's a novel about IT, DevOps. So converting from waterfall to more of an agile, helping the business win. How do you build your IT? But it's written in novel form, so there's characters and people play different roles, so it's more entertaining. Most of the Agile people all recommend this book.
Are you saying IT is not entertaining?
Oh, it can be. It can be very entertaining. Anyway, but yeah, I would definitely, if someone take this book, especially if you're new or want, it'll be interesting. It's a good book. So, thanks for everyone for letting me join you. I actually did one of those professional development days years ago, a couple activities. And today I just want to share big dreams, made from small pieces. I just recently co-authored a book called The Change, and there's a picture up there. And this was a great experience trying to learn something new, stretch the boundaries a little bit. And in my section, there's 20 authors in it. I'm one of the 20, which is nice because it's interesting. And by the way, everyone who's here will get a free copy. All I ask is that you take a picture of me and post it on your LinkedIn and put a little note to me, free copy. So there you go. But so this presentation is kind of based what's in the book. And at the end, I threw a little bit more career IIBA, what you do from a business analyst perspective in there as well. I'll see how well this works. Okay. So, story goes, life is good. I had business with billboards on 95, right? Doing great, business is great, life is good. The next thing I know, I'm looking for change in the movie theater parking lot, right? To pay for my lunch, right? So it does have a lot of change. That just gives you an idea of what we're getting into here. I was a fresh kid out of college. I was able to break down my college in small bits and graduate in 4 years. I didn't extend it and didn't do that. Graduated at a point where engineers, it wasn't a good recruiting time. When I graduated in 1990, the hiring was down the rock bottom, right? So I ended up having to doing odd jobs, working in machine shops, even at one point selling perfume door to door throughout the Delaware Valley area. You might have saw me one day. So I got a lot of no's. I learned from doing the door to door sales that it's always not rosy, it's always not positive, yes. And that was part of my lessons in multi-level marketing. So I kind of learned about that. Then I finally landed an engineering job thanks to a friend of mine, contacts I had in college. She was able to give me an interview. I got the interview because I was the only one who had manufacturing experience. Because while I was waiting for my job, I took another job just to have that basis, and they appreciated the fact that of all the engineers they interviewed, I was the only one who worked in the machine shop, which was one of the big people they work with. And then, enjoyed, there's a picture, my buddy from college, going around, going fishing when he got a job at...
Which one of those is yours?
Mine is the redhead.
Okay.
On that side. That's when I was young. You always look good when you're in your 20s. Then, want to talk about leveling up. So one of the things they offered at my office was they would pay for 3 classes a year. Problem is, when I was getting my master's, it was 5 classes a year. So I pointed up the other 2. So what I would say is that you got to pay for your own investment, right? Now, even though some people might say no to it because you had to put your own money into it, but I'm still benefiting some 30 years later with my degree. So I think my investment and my time to get the master's was well worth it. One of the quotes that one of my coworkers said to me one time, he says to me in the hallway, this is when we actually worked in the office, he says, "So what makes you think you deserve that benefit?" And I was like, I'm taking it anyhow, because I wouldn't get paid much. At that time, we didn't get paid a lot of money as engineers in the government. And just a little picture, that's the diploma I got hanging in my office from my grandmother from 1897. So, that's a high school woman and graduating and everything back then. People don't realize the strides women have made over the years. So I always look at that as a reminder of me something. If she can do it, I can do it. So saying yes to the opportunity. So one of the next things, I was getting my master's. I just got accepted to get my master's. I was going to school there, actually Great Valley, down the street. And a 6-month rotation came up for Naval Air Headquarters down in DC. And I could imagine myself as a young engineer, not as smart, I'm not as high level in the organization as other engineers or other people. But I said, why not? So I applied. And I actually got it, right? So I could have said no. So inside me, in my mind, it was telling me no. Why bother? Why try? Because you never get it. I ended up getting it, and because I did that, I got to participate in the first flight for the F-18 ENF jet fighter, which if you look on a naval ship nowadays, that's the plane. Helped put together from a business analyst perspective, maybe, or engineer, or in that way. The LRIP specification. So that was a multi-billion-dollar contract. So that I got done applying what we're going to talk about today a little bit.
Greg, what do you mean by LRIP?
Low rate initial production. So you have an EMD, which is engineering and demonstration activity, which is a couple vehicles. Then they do LRIP, where they want to prove out production. And then they go to full rate production later. So now we'll back down to earth, flying around with the planes. Got a project to, we were losing aircraft engines. They were in containers somewhere on a base, and they would get wet and fall apart. And I was able to team up with, excuse me, Georgia Tech, and we developed some devices. One of the things I did was make sure I knew how the customer was operating. As you can see, got the one picture on the aircraft carrier, watch them unload an engine. And there's a picture of me standing a bunch of aircraft engine containers piled up in Cherry Point, North Carolina. So we did such a good job because we built something from nothing to something in 6 months, actually testing it out in the field. And we were able to support what we wanted to do. We ended up winning another $10 million worth of business. And in fact, it allowed me, because I said yes to that project to try it out to see what we could do. And you can see there's a lot more yeses that came after that because of that one effort. I was able to present in front of the Undersecretary of the Navy as a little GS-12 engineer. That rarely happens. a lot of the upper people, like, why are you in front of the, I have never been, you know, they've never been, I jumped so many layers to get there. But it was a great experience and how that worked, and then because of that, we're like, oh, here's more money, right? So just money kept flowing. Then what was next? I realized that it was going to take me years to progress in the government, corporate world, promotion, stuff like that, because there were a lot of people above me, very limited number of spots to go to. So I decided I was going to kind of slide out, start my own business. I love Philadelphia and all the things that you could do in Philadelphia, and created my Philadelphia Living and Town Living. We were doing 30 to 60,000 views a month, and everything was going great. I even had the billboards, right? Nice job. I got to leave my government job. Excuse me. Then the bottom fell out. 9/11. I saw 60,000 views go down to 0, and it was like done, because nobody was going out. Nobody was leaving the building, kind of like COVID was. Just there was no entertainment, no restaurants. So I had business debt. I worked side jobs, got some. I even crawled around in UPS planes at the airport during the holiday season when they always hire people. I said, I'll take it, and I did that for a while. Did learn a lot from that. And that earning was enough to partially pay the credit card bills, pay my mortgage because I didn't want to lose my house, and then I ended up sometimes just walking through the local movie parking lot, just picking up change, getting enough change together. And when food was inexpensive, you can buy a week worth of meat and make sandwiches for like $6. So if you had $6, you can have a whole week's worth of lunch. You can't do that nowadays, but back then you could. So, you know, I learned just the survivability. Do little things, like you get that little penny, that quarter, that dollar, it all adds up in the long run. Then, you know, as you progress, opportunity arises. So one of the same people that I partnered with at Georgia Tech called me up and says, hey Greg, I have a problem with my customer in California. Can you help me out and help them organize so they can give us money? I said, sure. You know, I had nothing else to lose. My business was gone, everything was gone. I'm like, yeah, I got no family, no nothing, I can go to California. So off I went. I ended up being a program manager for the Bradley fighting vehicle. And that in itself was another story. But lots of good things came from that trip, because I said that one little yes. My most important yes ever was for my wife while in California. So she said yes. Then we had Isabella. There's a picture of Isabella when she's 13. There's my son. He's there, but you can't see him. He's hidden in the picture. And there's my nephews and my family at the production site in York, Pennsylvania. So there's lots of things. I also learned when I came back here about a thing called Agile and Scrum, because I needed a backup plan. You always have backup plans when you do stuff. And just in case I had to move back to California so she can be with her family, I want to make sure I cover the IT world, because with jobs are in California, a lot of software. So, but you would be surprised, we were building tanks in California too. So now back to building my own business. So I was a still a contractor, so if you knew any contracting jobs, looking for part-time stuff. But I had an interview, and the person there said, well, I'm kind of looking for, because they wanted me to run their agile transformation. And the manager was like, I'm looking for someone more well-known. And I'm like, okay, well, I can do that. So what I did is I put plans and actions for doing coaching and training and things like that, and I started doing some 15-minute videos and did a couple fun videos with my son, you know, and little by little got 14 million views. That's a picture of one of his videos that actually got like 13.5. It got a lot of videos from that during COVID. I've done over 1,100 shows, and I have like over 14,000 connections. So taking that as someone more well known, I took that no and turned it into a lot of yeses. So even though you hear one no, that doesn't mean you stop. So you can get big dreams from smaller pieces, turning no's into yeses. My solution is breaking the no's into smaller yeses with 3 self-applied ideas. 1, you turn no's into simpler, easy yeses. So when they say they're big no's because they're big and they're scary, you make them smaller so they say yes, and they just say yes more times. You have to have the patience. It's important. I didn't put that in here, but it's true. Saying yes to your own growth, and also transforming to an open mindset that allows for smaller yeses to result in bigger dreams, bigger career goals as you move along. So turning no's into yeses. Things look scary. Your team, your work must work for the yeses. They have to. You can't depend on others to give you the yes. You have to work hard at it. Leverage a yes, even one yes to make more yeses. So all these things you've seen, all the yeses, have been leveraged again and again and again to make more yeses as they go. Keeping it simple and small with the understanding of customer capabilities that make a yes possible. If your client can only has an approval of $10,000, don't give them an invoice for $12,000. That's not how you get a yes. You make it $9,000 so they can approve it and they don't have to go all the way up the chain to get approved. Little things like that. People, when they tell you these things for a reason. They want to make it easier to work with you. Some no's are just code words for opportunities to say yes elsewhere, right? So you got to think of some of these no's, and sometimes those no's turn to yeses for yourself. Like, no, you can't do this. Well, that means that maybe I should go someplace else. From a business analyst, breaking things into small pieces, applying that perspective of everything you do. We're always taught. People say, how do you do that? I said, well, a lot of probably talked about work breakdown structures. That's breaking it down into smaller pieces. That's what that is. It's in essence. When I was assembling F-18 specification, I didn't drop a specification this big on each engineer's desk. I pulled out the sections that were remaining, and I took that one little line, put it in the database, and shared it with the engineer for them to approve. They approved it, and I got it all done. They all said, well, how'd you get it all done? One at a time, right? I didn't overwhelm the people I want the signatures from, and got it through the system. When you break budgets into, big budgets into smaller budgets, it may take a little bit more admin work, but I mentioned earlier to some of the folks here, if you have a big contract, a big budget, everyone's going to borrow your money. They're all going to want to jump on board. They're all going to want to jump on your timesheets, okay, because they see this big bucket. My strategy is break that bucket into smaller buckets so it doesn't look so ripe for the picking, let's just say. And the story in the book, my boss would go to Detroit, and every time he would go, I'd lose $5 million. I'm like, what are you doing? Because other programs, they're not saying they didn't need it, but we needed it too. We had it all planned out. We knew what we wanted to do, and I had to keep changing the scope. So those are the kind of things where you break that down, it allows that to happen. And then saying yes to your own personal growth. This is very important. You should never give up like free or discounted training. If you ever heard of Alex Hormozi, if you ever want to study marketing, which I think business analysts should become marketing people as well. He has a great couple books he just put out. He's trying to be he wants to be a billionaire. He's already a 100 millionaire. He wants to be a billionaire. The guy's, I think he just turned 30, so he knows what he's talking about. Do what try to fit a yes into, even though it might be tough, because example, I had to go all the way down to DC. I drove back and forth every night from a master's class because it wasn't virtual, it was before that. So to make the yeses happen, I had to fit them in, and I could tell stories forever on that program. That would just take hours to tell those stories. Say yes to unknown opportunities that, what are you gonna do? So in this picture was one of the devices we built that we ended up presenting to the Undersecretary of the Navy. I had a young intern, got a call from one of these admirals on one of the other bases. I got $700,000. You want it? He's like, what do we do? Take the money. We'll figure out what to do with it later, right? So we didn't know what we were going to do it, but we ended up progressing from the first generation was a cube. Can you imagine writing that specification for this? By the way, my specification was 5 pages long. So we went from a cube to that device, which we actually tested. That device got us this money, and then that got us to where we developed something that was about the size of a credit card, about an inch thick. And by the way, all these tags could talk to each other. This is way before what you got now. So we put them in that's when you saw me in the engine. We were putting them in the containers, and we were having them talk to each other because we didn't have big transmissions, right? We didn't have cell phones at that time that could do that. But we knew that was coming, by the way. We saw that as a future. So you think about that, and then say yes to the freedom. So this is like a Bob Proctor. If you ever read some of Bob Proctor's books, I do have a reference to that. Own your own insurance policy. You know, health insurance, medical, whatever, life insurance. See what it would cost. Don't depend directly on your own company, so you always know what your options are. So many people are afraid to take a leap someplace because they don't know what's there, right? So for years I paid for my own health insurance. I got a deal now with my wife. She's getting half price, so I'm like, we're going for that. But I know how to do it. I'm not scared to do it. If anything happened, I would just go online, get it, and we're all good. So do that too. Be your own. And I heard a couple of conversations here. You know, make it a plan to get a certification every year or go to a conference. Don't hesitate. If you're not making that part of your career, then you're doing yourself a disservice. I'll just tell you that right now. You know, I have a story of, I had some product owners. The CIO, he asked me, what classes can my people take? So they can take the CSPO, they can take a product owner class, they can take a Scrum Master class. He's like, okay. So he offers the class to the product owners, who are business analysts, basically. And they didn't want to take it. They said they knew everything already. They had everything. They didn't need it. There was no need for them to do it. Well, the company got bought up within about a year and a half, and they laid off all the IT workers. So all the ones that said yes walked out of that building with free certifications. And that time they cost like almost $1,500, $2,000 a piece. You know, a lot cheaper now, but then it was more expensive. They could pay for their days and everything. So it's amazing how they said no because they didn't have time and they didn't think it was worth it. But in the long run, you know, it would help when they're on the street, because when recruiters look, what letters you have at the end on your resume, we're gonna make sure you have those letters. So, you know, don't hesitate. You know, they were just too busy. And as I said, the ones that had yes, look, and mine, I gave you mine. Here's all mine. So every year I just go get a cert in some field that I don't know, just to learn about it, because I know I'm going to talk about it or someone's going to ask me a question about it. It never hurts. And as you know, you got to get those PDUs and SDUs, and probably IIBA needs probably educational units too, probably.
They do.
Yeah, so I take classes that qualify all of them, then I don't have to worry. I take one that satisfies all my certifications. And then transforming your mindset with yeses. You know, a couple of things you want some ideas. And I think I shared this at one of our sessions before when we talked about millionaires. You know, every day be thankful and write some goals down, okay? Get a coach or mentor. Say yes to coaches and masterminds, and work on your goals together. Have someone to work on it with you when it gets you. And then join masterminds, because a mastermind is not just someone telling you what to do. It activates your brain to open to yeses, possibilities, because you're hearing other people. All of a sudden you get on the same wavelength, and your mind's opening up as their minds are opening up. Maybe on a different topic, but that'll be there. In the far right is a visualization of my goals in the future. And that was a coffee company I started working with. And that's just drawing plans. Tips for daily practice, mind transformation. These are some of the things that I do, like 5 things I do every morning. I write down 10 things I'm thankful for, and there's a book, and I got a picture of the books there called The Magic. If you ever want to learn about being thankful and how to practice that, that's a great book. It's 29 days of activities, and every day is a different way of being thankful. And if you make it through all 29 days, it's kind of tough. You'll have a good opening for how to be thankful for the world. And it'll put you in a better position to talk to other people too. And then I write two versions of my own goals. I have a lifetime super goal, and I have like a 6 months to a year goal. So I make two sets. What I want to achieve over a lifetime, little sentence there, and then what I want to achieve. I write simple, like word format, a couple words here and there, just to represent, and then I write it out long ways. That way it just programs my mind to where I want to be in the future. I also write down things that I'm not doing as a reminder myself. So as I record this in my book, I should have put a picture of my book in there. I write down things that I'm not doing, just to remind myself. That was another habit I picked up from the Atomic Habits. He talked about that a little bit. And I thought that was an excellent idea, a reminder. And then write due dates. That's actually from my mentors. Due dates actually motivate and hold us accountable. So if you don't give yourself a due date on your goals, you probably won't achieve them. But if you put some due dates in there, little tiny plan for the next couple of weeks or whatever, that'll help you out a lot. And then as I do all that, I look at my to-do items for the day, and I use that to prioritize what I want to work on the day. So all those pieces of information, when I craft that in the morning, kind of leads me to how I want to prioritize what I want to do during the day.
Can I just ask
Yeah.
a question? When you say write down things that I'm not doing, you
Yeah.
mean things that you don't want to do, things that are bad?
Well, let's say
things, or what
I got to lose weight,
Uh-huh.
and I haven't been doing my sit-ups every morning. So I'll write there I'm not doing my sit-ups, like things I'm not doing. I'm not doing my sit-ups,
That
or I'm
you
not
should be doing.
that I should be doing, that I say I'm going to be doing. I put in my goal before, but I'm not doing it. And it just reminds me of that loop, that yes, your goal, you got to do it. And there was this one way to get back into that. So the other one, if you're not doing sales calls or you're not reaching out to clients, right? And you haven't done it. I mean, Hiroshi says you got to do 100 a day, right? So if you're not doing your 100 a day, I'm not getting my 100 a day. What I got to do to make that 100, right? And that's kind of what you look at those, what I'm not doing. And then in the end, you know, as you can see, I've made lots of mistakes, ups and downs, things that weren't in my control whatsoever. Question is, I've got to survive it. You have to teach yourself to forgive yourself and others. And I want to leave this as part of that, is changing that mindset. If you can't forgive yourself, you're never going to progress. If you can't forgive others, you're never going to work with anybody ever. Because somebody out there somewhere will do something, whether intentionally or not intentionally, and mess up your life. And that's nothing you can do about it. And you can dwell on that all the time in the past and live in the past, but that's not going to get you into the future. So in the end, just make sure you try to, you know, I wrote this thing, I forgive myself for my mistakes I made. I also forgive others who have hurt me in the past, so I can move on to the future with a clean slate. And without going forward, you can't move forward. You can't, all the yeses, if you can't forgive all those people that told you no's, and maybe they told you no for a reason because you're not supposed to be on that path, it'll be very tough in life. So with that, that's the end. I do have a barcode. I have it in the back. If you want to download a free copy of the book in a PDF version, as I said, everyone's going to get a free copy. All you do is got to take a picture with me and then post it up on your LinkedIn. That'd be great. Then I also have a mailing list. Now, as I said, I have developed this thing for my people I mentor and coach, where I have newsletters, I have social media, I have Slack, we have meetups. I encourage everyone to participate in all of it. So people that I mentor and are part of our Slack group, I offer them to be in the blog, social media, interviews, stuff like that. So, and you're more than welcome. And then here's some information. Get a hold of me. As you can see, I'm on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X, TikTok, podcast, Spotify. I probably put about 50 social media posts a day. Just me. So if you have a company and you're not putting more than me, shame on you. Right? So, I mean, if you listen to Gary Vee, he's always talking about that. He's like, if you're just sitting there at the cash register, you can put a link, you can put a post up.